I read an article in the last week or two. It was really interesting. It was saying, projecting that in the next 10 to 20 years, that the most lucrative jobs and actually the most sought after jobs, and the people most sought after, actually, I should say, are going to be for people who are creative thinkers. And their main purpose for this is that people were being pigeonholed into jobs like in IT and computer tech and computation, various other things like that, and where things are very rigid, but no one was being taught how to think creatively. And it just really made me smile, because I thought if anybody has journeyed with God, they know that He is the creator and He thinks out of the box all the time. And I guess what I want to get across to you is that is what He wants you to do. There are a certain set of problems that you were designed to come up with solutions for on this planet, and there's probably lots of them, actually. But just like in this projection, we can't look at how the world solves problems because it will keep us pigeonholed. So the analogy God gave me was, David had a problem. He had to bring the ark back from Obed-Edom's house to Jerusalem. He wanted the ark. He wanted the presence of God manifested where He was, in Jerusalem and all of Israel, right? I think that's what most of us want. We want the manifest presence of God. So when he started out to do that, he didn't think it through. And he used the same methods that the Philistines used, which you would think he would know better. He'd been fighting them for how many decades? And, put the ark on an ox cart and and, he was making sacrifices and all that, but he didn't search out God's way of doing it. And of course, Uzzah put out his hand to steady the ark when one of the ox stumbled and died. And I think that sobered David. Well, it says it. He was frightened. Fear of God was on him, and he stopped moving forward. So it's something to look at when you stop moving forward in God and in your spiritual life. Okay, he was not honoring the way God had ordained the ark to always be moved. He hadn't looked it up. He hadn't done his homework. So there's a certain amount of training your soul, learning how to do things. On the other hand, God had given him a new way of worship. The Lord had taught him single-handedly how to worship with song. There had been no song, in the worship of God. So when he had done his homework, learned how to honor and do the right protocol, the right order, and then added to it, the worship and the song, there was something that broke open in the heavens, and the presence of God, the manifest presence of God, came. He was able to bring the ark, the presence of God, into Jerusalem, and it was well known. So I think this is something for us. I think this is what we're called to do. We're called to bring the manifest presence of God into the world. And it's only going to come as we seek God for solutions rather than looking at how it's been done in the past in the world. I was thinking about, I think I heard Kenneth Copeland talk about this. He said he knew two men, and one was on management side of his company and the other one was like a worker. And, they were having problems between management and labor, and they couldn't come to a solution. And finally, these two men who were on totally opposite sides were sitting back watching these negotiations. And they noticed each other that they had been praying, and they kind of got together and said, between the two of us, we ought to be able to figure it out. Sure enough, they started praying in tongues, came up with a solution. They brought it to the heads of management and heads of labor. And it was a God solution. And God was honored in that situation. So that was a situation where creative thinking, and the Holy Spirit's the creative thinker. I just did something for my grandkids. I said, do you know how many species of animals there are? Like right now, estimated 8.7 million kinds of animals. There's at least 40,000 types of spiders. I mean, they found another organ in the body this past week. You know, if you want to learn creative thinking, you will only learn it from the Creator.